Banquet given by the mayor. The table was set for 100 persons. The magnificence of it exceeded all expectations. The remotest provinces were represented at this feast of the gods by the costliest gifts. The golden sturgeon from Shexna and the silver pheasant from the Caucasian woods held a rendezvous with strawberries so seldom to be had in our latitude in winter. The devil! For God's sake, stop reading, Your Excellency! Couldn't you find something else to read about? Cried the other official in sheer desperation. He snatched the paper from his colleague's hands, and started to read something else. Our correspondent in Tula informs us that yesterday a sturgeon was found in the UPA, an event which even the oldest inhabitants cannot recall, and all the more remarkable since they recognized the former police captain in this sturgeon. This was made the occasion for giving a banquet in the club. The prime cause of the banquet was served in a large wooden platter garnished with vinegar pickles. A bunch of parsley stuck out of its mouth. Dr. P, who acted as toastmaster, saw to it that everybody present got a piece of the sturgeon. The sauces to go with it were unusually varied and delicate. Permit me, Your Excellency, it seems to me you are not so careful either in the selection of reading matter, interrupted the first official, who secured the Gazette again and started to read. One of the oldest inhabitants of Vyatka has discovered a new and highly original recipe for fish soup. A live codfish, Loda vulgaris, is taken and beaten with a rod until its liver swells up with anger. The officials' heads drooped. Whatever their eyes fell upon had something to do with eating. Even their own thoughts were fatal. No matter how much they tried to keep their minds off beefsteak and the like, it was all in vain. Their fancy returned invariably, with irresistible force, back to that for which they were so painfully yearning. Suddenly an inspiration came to the official who had once taught handwriting. I have it, he cried delightedly. What do you say to this, Your Excellency? What do you say to our finding a mujik? A mujik, Your Excellency? What sort of a mujik? Why, a plain ordinary mujik. A mujik like all other mujiks. He would get the breakfast rolls for us right away, and he could also catch partridges and fish for us. A mujik. But where are we to fetch one from, if there is no mujik here? Why shouldn't there be a mujik here? There are mujiks everywhere. All one has to do is hunt for them. There certainly must be a mujik hiding here somewhere so as to get out of working. This thought so cheered the officials that they instantly jumped up to go in search of a mujik. For a long while they wandered about on the island without the desired result, until finally a concentrated smell of black bread and old sheepskin assailed their nostrils and guided them in the right direction. There under a tree was a colossal mujik lying fast asleep with his hands under his head. It was clear that to escape his duty to work he had impudently withdrawn to this island. The indignation of the officials knew no bounds. What, lying asleep here, you lazy bones, you, they raged at him, it is nothing to you that there are two officials here who are fairly perishing of hunger. Up, forward, march, work. The mujik rose and looked at the two severe gentlemen standing in front of him. His first thought was to make his escape, but the officials held him fast. He had to submit to his fate. He had to work. First he climbed up on a tree and plucked several dozen of the finest apples for the officials. He kept a rotten one for himself. Then he turned up the earth and dug out some potatoes. Next he started a fire with 2 bits of wood that he rubbed against each other. Out of his own hair he made a snare and caught partridges. Over the fire, by this time burning brightly, he cooked so many kinds of food that the question arose in the officials' minds whether they shouldn't give some to this idler. Beholding the efforts of the mujik, they rejoiced in their hearts. They had already forgotten how the day before they had nearly been perishing of hunger, and all they thought of now was, what a good thing it is to be an official. Nothing bad can ever happen to an official. Are you satisfied, gentlemen? The lazy mujik asked. Yes, we appreciate your industry, replied the officials. Then you will permit me to rest a little. Go take a little rest, but first make a good strong cord. The mujik gathered wild hemp stalks, laid them in water, beat them and broke them, and toward evening a good stout cord was ready. The officials took the cord and bound the mujik to a tree, so that he should not run away. Then they laid themselves to sleep. Thus day after day passed, and the mujik became so skillful that he could actually cook soup for the officials in his bare hands. The officials had become round and well fed and happy. It rejoiced them that here they needn't spend any money and that in the meanwhile their pensions were accumulating in St. Petersburg. What is your opinion, Your Excellency? One said to the other after breakfast one day, is the story of the Tower of Babel true? Don't you think it is simply an allegory? By no means, Your Excellency, I think it was something that really happened. What other explanation is there for the existence of so many different languages on earth? Then the flood must really have taken place, too. Certainly, else, how would you explain the existence of antediluvian animals? Besides, the Moscow Gazette says. They made search for the old number of the Moscow Gazette, seated themselves in the shade, and read the whole sheet from beginning to end. They read of festivities in Moscow, Tula, Penza, and Ryazan, and strangely enough felt no discomfort at the description of the delicacies served. There is no saying how long this life might have lasted. Finally, however, it began to bore the officials. They often thought of their cooks in St. Petersburg, and even shed a few tears in secret. I wonder how it looks in Podyaskaya Street now, Your Excellency, one of them said to the other. Oh, don't remind me of it, Your Excellency. I am pining away with homesickness. It is very nice here. There is really no fault to be found with this place, but the lamb longs for its mother sheep. And it is a pity, too, for the beautiful uniforms. Yes, indeed, a uniform of the 4th class is no joke. The gold embroidery alone is enough to make one dizzy. Now they began to importune the mujik to find some way of getting them back to Podyaskaya Street, and strange to say, the mujik even knew where Podyaskaya Street was. He had once drunk beer and mead there, and as the saying goes, everything had run down his beard, alas, but nothing into his mouth. The officials rejoiced and said, "We are officials from Podyaskaya Street. And I am one of those men, do you remember, who sit on a scaffolding hung by ropes from the roofs and paint the outside walls. I am one of those who crawl about on the roofs like flies." "That is what I am," replied the mujik. The mujik now pondered long and heavily on how to give great pleasure to his officials, who had been so gracious to him, the lazy bones, and had not scorned his work. And he actually succeeded in constructing a ship. It was not really a ship, but still it was a vessel, that would carry them across the ocean close to Podyaskaya Street. "Now, take care, you dog, that you don't drown us," said the officials, when they saw the raft rising and falling on the waves. "Don't be afraid. We mujiks are used to this," said the mujik, making all the preparations for the journey. He gathered swans down and made a couch for his 2 officials, then he crossed himself and rowed off from shore. How frightened the officials were on the way, how seasick they were during the storms, how they scolded the coarse mujik for his idleness, can neither be told nor described. The mujik, however, just kept rowing on and fed his officials on herring. At last, they caught sight of dear old Mother Neva. Soon they were in the glorious Catherine Canal, and then, oh joy! They struck the grand Podyaskaya Street. When the cooks saw their officials so well fed, round, and so happy, they rejoiced immensely. The officials drank coffee and rolls, then put on their uniforms and drove to the pension bureau. How much money they collected there is another thing that can neither be told nor described. Nor was the mujik forgotten. The officials sent a glass of whiskey out to him and 5 kopecks. "Now, mujik, rejoice.